Very warm welcome to the program. Now, as the campaign season warms up, PDP's chances have recently been boosted with the return of Senator Ibrahim Shekarau, a serving federal lawmaker and former governor of Kano State, who left the New Nigerian People's Party into its fold. The party's presidential candidate, Atiku Abubakar, and other party leaders received him in Kano State while promising to give the All Progressives Congress a good fight for its money in the 2023 national elections. And also, the vice presidential candidate of the party and governor of Delta State, Ifeanyi Okowa, has been tackling the Labour Party's presidential candidate, Peter Obi, for going on a tour of churches. Okowa is advising Obi to keep the church away from political campaigns so as to safeguard the sanctity of the church. Now, this is coming on the heels of several groups which are also endorsing the Atiku Okowa ticket despite the internal wrangling between the PDP national leadership, the presidential candidate, and the Rivers State Governor, Nyesom Wike.
We welcome His Excellency Ibrahim Shekarau into the PDP family and all his supporters. On their behalf, I present this membership card to Senator Shekarau, and all other cards will be presented to other members of his followers. Thank you and God bless you all.
Well, PDP National Chairman Iochia, are you there in Kano State? And of course, we had Governor Okowa right there at that reception for Ibrahim Shekarau. Joining us for more on this, I have in the studio the Delta State Commissioner for Information, Charles Saniago, who is an associate of Governor Ifeanyi Okowa himself, right from his heydays in the Nigerian Senate. So good to have you here, Charles.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. Good evening, viewer. And I'm also happy to meet you again.
Yeah,
I'm not only his associate then, I was also your colleague.
Yeah,
so we're on the same platform.
Yes, honestly. It's been so good seeing you doing a great job for Governor Ifeanyi Okowa.
I must also commend you too, and through you to your colleagues and a number of our colleagues that are keeping the flag flying.
Yeah. Well, so the campaign season is gradually coming up here. We just have 27 days before we begin the actual campaign. But from what you can see all around the country, everywhere is warming up. And the Atiku Okowa ticket is beginning to receive some support. But this is coming despite the tumultuous challenge with Governor Nyesom Wike. A lot of people had thought that by this week, all those issues in PDP would have been settled and the Director General of the Atiku Okowa Presidential Campaign Council would have been named. But this is not happening. Isn't it affecting the chances of your principal and his presidential candidate?
Well, thank you very much. I'm happy that you recognize that there are a number of persons that are leaving their comfort zone in their different political parties to head the way of the PDP. And of course, the reason is not far-fetched. This next election is actually for the PDP to lose. What that means is that the party is better positioned than any of the other political parties to win the next general elections, not only based on its performance in the first 16 years that it heads to, but because the APC government have also abysmally managed our economy and indeed our diversity. And so individuals in this country are beginning to look forward in the direction of the PDP. And of course, it is said in the local communities that it's only the mango or possibly the tree that bore fruits that is likely going to receive stones, because you mean there is something that you need to harvest by the time you throw the stone at that particular tree. And so at this moment, you could see a whole lot of rumbling in the PDP. It's not unexpected. But what is important is that I am quite optimistic that the leaders of the party, particularly led by Atiku Abubakar, they are managing this particular situation that we find ourselves. Governor Nyesom Wike, like you rightly mentioned, have raised a number of issues. I'm sure that the leaders of the party will continue to interrogate these issues with a view to moving into the next election with a united family. The coming on board of Shekarau that you mentioned in the course of your introduction is a very, very good omen and a good development for the party. You recall that Shekarau head sway, two-term governor of Kano State, and you know Kano today is number one when it comes to population. And then when it also comes to, when you begin to talk about the issues of the number of votes that goes in one direction, Kano ranks first. Yes, Lagos does a whole lot, but because Lagos usually have a divide between PDP and any of the parties that is in that environment, you see that you're only just trading in the neighborhood of 1 million plus for any of the political parties. But in the case of Kano, you can afford to push towards over 2 million threshold for even just one political party. And so getting Shekarau, Niruku, so to say, in Kano, to come the way of the PDP is actually a big catch. So if you to be a fisherman, you can say that he has gotten the big fish from the river. And so it's a good development for the PDP. Having now had the Shekarau coming into the fold of the PDP, the party can almost go to rest in Kano. That it's not going to be. It's not going to be something that it's not going to be something that you say the party is going to push away.
I think a lot of political observers will still say that there's a lot of job to be done.
You know, it's not coming alone.
You know the Kwankwanso factor in Kano, and of course you know that APC is there with Ganduje. So, considering the PDP's governorship,
the good thing is that Kwankwanso and Ganduje are not on the same track. You know what that means?
Yeah, it's a 3-horse race this time around. So. Let's talk about the PDP and its chances considering the Wike factor, because I don't want to push this away. I'm making this comment in the light of what Wike said while reacting to McCarthy, who coincidentally used to be his associate just a few days ago. He said McCarthy should leave him alone. He's doing what he thinks is the right thing in trying to look for at least a good position for himself and his team. And this is what he had to say. I'm quoting Wike now. He said, "Take it upon yourself that Kaduna falls to PDP." That's his reference to McCarthy. "I don't want to hear excuses that they rigged the election or they didn't rig election. That is what I've told everybody. In Kano, make sure PDP wins. In Niger, make PDP wins. In Jigawa, make sure PDP wins. If you win, then see whether PDP wins here or not. It's operation deliver your state. Don't use anybody's state to add up." Isn't this pointing to some serious division within the PDP? So everybody is being asked to go and deliver their own state individually. And I want to inquire what your principal, Governor Okowa, is doing, not only to deliver Delta State, but to deliver the South-South, which Wike seems to be painting himself as the leader of that zone when it comes to PDP politics.
When you have a cup filled with some content, depending on your disposition, you can see the cup as either half full or half empty. And if you see it as half full, it means that you are very, very optimistic. And if it's the other way, it means you have some element of pessimism. For us in the PDP, we are seeing the disposition of Wike as a position that is having the cup half full. I am happy you rightly mentioned that he is challenging other leaders in the party to make sure they deliver their state to the PDP. He didn't tell them that they will fail. And he also told us that he will deliver Rivers to the PDP. What that's put to rest is the fact that he still remains a party man in spite of his disagreement with some issues and some members of the party. And that is quite comforting. There are, of course, certain rumblings, which I believe in the course of time, the leadership of the party will find time to sit at a round table and sort them out. And so for those who are having the fear that Wike is going to leave the party, that the man have not said. And what is also important is that both the leadership of the party recognize that Rivers has been a very, very key, an important state in the PDP, which is why the party leadership is very much concerned and determined to ensure that at the end of the day, Wike remains in the party, and then Rivers will not become an added advantage as it has always been for the PDP. Now, you also mentioned the issue of challenges in the party. In the South-South, there are 6 states in the South-South. These 6 states before now have, for a very long time, remained out of the PDP, except little incursion of the opposition party in Edo State. That was the only state where you had opposition party. Forget about what happened in Rivers. It was just a movement of one man. It is not a movement of the state to that party. They had the governor move from PDP to APC. But the entire structure and the body of politicians in Rivers, in Cross River, largely still remain in the PDP. Akwa Ibom has been perpetually PDP, which is why my very good friend who did very well, the Okomo transformer, Akpabio, even when he left, in spite of all his strength in Akwa Ibom, with all his organic followership, he was not able to transfer that into the APC. Because there have been a whole lot of organic followership for the PDP in a place like Akwa Ibom. Ditto Delta State. The same thing can also be said of Bayelsa. And luckily, the only time that APC as opposition wanted to have an inroad in Bayelsa, that led to what we now call the miracle governor. Of course, the history is better told by those of you who are very now active in our profession. And so, having said that, you discover that a number of the persons and those states that was before now that strayed away, more like the lordship, is back fully with Obaseki holding sway. What that tells you is that the PDP is not only going to hold sway in the 6 states of the South-South, but is going to be able to add yet another advantage to the Atiku Okowa ticket. That is not in contention.
Some people who actually doubt that, considering the waves that Ovie Omo Agege, the deputy president of the Senate and governorship candidate
wave on the ground
of the APC is pulling in your state, Delta State, and this is beginning to make. I have had some Wike colleagues and associates who tell me that I should look. I mean, Okowa is not so strong in Delta State. If there's no how Ovie Omo Agege will be waxing stronger. What is Okowa doing to ensure that Delta State doesn't fall into the
What is your
APC?
definition of waxing stronger? I hope he has not come to your studio and then tell you that he's waxing stronger. Well, good enough. There is no pulling unit in your studio here where he can come and win. But if it is on the ground in Delta, APC, Ovie Omo Agege is somebody that I have a whole lot of respect for, and he knows it. I can actually call him my senior friend because once in a while we interact. It happens that we even share boundaries somewhere where we live together. And so I don't have any challenge. He has all the rights to come and contest. But he knows that when it comes to Delta, that it will take a miracle for him running on the platform of the APC to be able to win. Because apart from the fact that Delta is almost synonymous with the PDP, the performance of Governor Okowa in the last 7.5 years has dealt a very big blow to the APC. And the chances of APC in Delta has been further worsened by the very abysmal performance of the party at the national level. I don't need to begin to recall how bad things have gone, whether in the area of economy or in their inability to manage their diversity, which today is the greatest challenge. And that is what makes the Atiku Okowa ticket very, very paramount. Individuals may talk about the economy today. Individuals may talk about education. Individuals may talk about insecurity. Individuals may talk about devolution of power. These things are very important. But you know, for me, the most important thing is the management of our diversity. Because these other things are more or less symptoms of the lack of management of our diversity, which has to a very large extent weakened the trust that we have in our common heritage. In your local parlance, I do know once in a while when we were in the Senate press corps that we do share this belief that the reason why they pot the rice in the pot is able to satisfy those who are waiting for it to be cooked is because the different grains in that pot were able to share some form of harmony, and then they cooperated. And that cooperation amongst the different grains is what made it possible for them to come together, fill the pot, and then the individuals who are waiting for that menu are able to have a good food. This cooperation is what is going to exist in the PDP. Well, and I can assure you, Nigerians who are those waiting for the rice to rise, to be able to have a good food, will benefit from the unity that will exist in the PDP ahead of the
you can't be pointing to this unity when we know what's happening in Delta PDP with Sheriff Oborevwori and of course, David, you have heard David saying that he's going to the Supreme Court to challenge Sheriff despite his win at the Court of Appeal. Isn't this pointing to the fact that APC can take advantage of this division, including with that of former Governor James Ibori, and hit you hard, which will affect Okowa's chances, including of delivering Delta State to his principal, Abubakar Atiku?
Sumner, I want to believe that you just want to ask this question because you know the truth. That even when the laws are made, the issue of people being aggrieved and going to court is part of the electoral process. So there's nothing untoward that somebody feel aggrieved and he decides to go to court. That cannot be called a very sharp disagreement. Anybody can wake up and say, I am not happy about A, B, C, and decide to approach the court. It's part of the electoral process. And one good thing that you must note about this court case you are talking about is that David Ediwe is not challenging the sanctity of the election that produced Oborevwori. He clearly admits that election was well conducted and that Oborevwori carried the day. What that tells you is that to a very large extent that the PDP in Delta was able to reason in one direction. He now decided to raise other issues, which is within his own rights as a Nigerian, as a Deltan, and as a contestant. Those of us in Delta PDP are not begrudging him for doing that. We believe that in the course of time, he may either see reason and decide not to proceed to the Supreme Court. But if in the event that he does proceed to the Supreme Court, we will also grant him that right, that it is his right to so do.
So it would affect the chances of the court?
It will not. Because at the end of the day, the party, I can assure you, will not only have a candidate to take part in the 2023 governorship election in Delta, but the party will work as one house to produce a candidate that will become the governor. To produce a governor, because we will not have a candidate, a governor that will sit and preside over the affairs of Delta under the platform of the PDP. Recall that I mentioned that the greatest disadvantage that the APC has in Delta is not only the fact that Ovioma Agege is not truly on ground, but largely because of the very, very ineffective performance of the APC at the national level.
And you think that with federal might, Ovioma Agege
no, they have always
make a strong showing in Delta State.
Even in 2019, they had a federal might. We taught them a lesson, a bitter one at that. As at 2015, Okowa won 21 local government areas out of 25. But you know what? In spite of their strength, with Omo Agege rising profile in the House of in the Senate, even at that time he had not become the Deputy Senate President, we reduced the number. Okowa further reduced the number in what many saw as a very political deft move, and he won 23 out of. In short, it was actually 24. But he was magnanimous enough to ask them, okay, don't worry, if they say they needed one, just leave it.
Just give them.
So, okay. And don't forget, he contested against Great Oburu. And all of them teamed together.
Serial governorship candidates.
They teamed together. You have Otega Emero, you have Ovioma Agege, you have a Great Oburu, all of them in one direction. Okowa did not defeat them wholly in the two other senatorial districts, which is Delta South and Delta North, where you have as much as 9 local governments in Delta North and 8 local governments in Delta South. But he went into the heart of Delta Central, where you have another 8 local governments, and took 6 away from these individuals who are from Delta Central. What did that tell you? That the PDP did not only expand its territories in the state, but it deepened its roots across the 25 local government areas in the state. Okay. And the APC has not done anything to want to have inroad into these 23 local government areas that Okowa have taken away from the cohorts of the opposition party.
Okay.
And you know what?
So some will
it's unfortunate that their abysmal performance at the national level has become the greatest campaign weapon for any political party. And you know, my friend Sumner, nobody will even begin to tell you whether they perform or not, because it's also biting you.
What?
It's biting you because the naira in your pocket, the kind of acrobatic dance the naira in your pocket is engaged in day out. It's worse than that of Okocha's ball.
All right, I'm afraid we just have to go around quickly to the issue of Okowa and Peter Obi. Okowa is asking Peter Obi to stop touring churches and not to involve the church in the 2023 polls. Why is that counsel coming from him? Is he threatened? Is Okowa threatened by Peter Obi's rising profile?
No, I'm sure you know that these two persons are very good friends. Okowa has a whole lot of respect for Peter Obi, and ditto Peter Obi to Okowa. Peter Obi had cause to come and commend us in Delta, particularly when he came to join us to inaugurate one of our empowerment programs. So they both have very personal respect for each other. But let's just take away the sentiments. It's not even only Peter Obi. There are certain things that we must not continue to emphasize. I mentioned earlier that one of the greatest challenges we have as a country is our inability to manage our diversity. And which are the pillars of this diversity? Our religion, our ethnic group, and then, of course, our geopolitical divide. Let me not talk about the demographic issues where the youth believe that they have also been left out. But these are the different pillars of our diversity. And then when you take, whether it is the church or it's the mosque, and decide to use it advantageously to you because you believe that, yes, you can afford to use your religion, either as a Christian or as a Muslim, you would have further widened that gulf and further create another nexus for individuals to take advantage of, which means our much sought unity is further, it becomes further for you to attain.
Yeah, but if the churches are inviting him, shouldn't he go?
No. If they want to invite you, what is the church meant to do? You know where we make mistake? We think that churches are houses where you must make money. If you must make money, you go and do business. There is only one reason that Jesus Christ came into this world for. And once you are in the church, it is assumed you are supposed to be a Christian, which means a follower of Jesus Christ. And Jesus Christ, recognized as the author and finisher of our faith, came into this world for only one reason. Forget about any other thing anybody tells you. And why God sent him is to reconcile mankind to God. Because God noticed that we have strayed from his principles and we are committing a whole lot of evils that will make us not to gain heaven. And Jesus Christ came for us to become righteous. When people go to the pulpit and begin to tell you that the other man is your enemy because he does not profess what you are professing, or the other man is not you from where you are, it means they are moving away from what the Bible says. You can. I'm not saying that the churches cannot pray for somebody if they believe that the man has what it takes to deliver. But when you have a total move into the political arena, then it means somebody is missing his calling.
Okay.
And so that
beginning to sound prophetic.
Yes, that
I'm
advice,
like a preacher yourself.
Yes, that advice
Yeah.
is with due respect to the credibility of P2B. It's with total respect to the friendship and the love that they share between both of them, because I know that both of them are very good friends. If you also listen to P2B, you know that he is also a man who has respect for elders and all that. And that was why when people started talking about him quoting for Atiku, I said, yes, he's a man of respect. The same way Atiku cannot be quoted anywhere of having insulted anybody, both old, young, and the middle class. And so this kind of respect is needed among those who are playing in the political arena, particularly in Africa, where we have so much respect for those in authority and also our elders.
Charles, Aniago is the Commissioner for Information in Delta State, and of course a very formidable spokesman for Governor Ifeanyi Okowa. Well, there are so many things that I want us to talk about, but because of this restriction on campaign issues and all of that, I'm just trying to hold myself back.
No, you can you don't need to make it campaign.
I'm very sure that when you come back, when the campaign begins fully, I'm going to have you here so that we'll talk about these issues. And
next time when I come, let us talk about what Atiku is putting on the table.
Yes. I don't want us to talk so much about that.
What Atiku is putting on the table is fantastic.
Because I don't want us to get into the realm of canvassing for votes here and there, but we must thank you immensely. And of course, I'm promising you that I'll be bringing you back here to help us discuss those issues when the time is there.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.